Good morning and welcome to the Demolition News business briefing for the month of October. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. What can I say? It's been an absolute disastrous start to the day. We had some gremlins first off, and it all went pear-shaped, so we've had to restart. But that's just indicative of this year, I think. At the time of broadcast, there are so many UK regions in quarantine right now that a national lockdown is just a matter of filling in some gaps in the map. In the US, the presidential race has become almost as divisive as the current resident of the White House. Amid wider economic jitters, the number of profit warnings issued by construction companies has apparently hit an all-time high. And this Halloween, bizarrely, the scary people are the ones without the masks. Frankly, it feels like the world is going to hell in a handbasket. No, hang on. I've just been told we're all out of hand baskets. And yet, in the midst of all of this, the UK construction industry seems to be carrying on regardless. In fact, as you're about to hear, the month of October wasn't just okay given the circumstances. It was actually very good indeed. And we'll be right back after this with Neil Edwards, the CEO of the Builders Conference. Good morning, Neil, and I'm going to sit here with my fingers crossed that the technology will allow us to speak this time.
I hope so.
Before rudely interrupted, I was mentioning this profit warnings spike that's been widely reported in the construction media. That's not good news, is it?
No, not at all. It seems that many of the businesses construction business are struggling to get work off the ground. Even I think there's a lot of work and its potential, but there's also a lot of work to get it off the ground. And what we don't want to see happen is a lot of conflict between client and contractor, because that will only just go down through the whole of the supply chain. I think we spoke about this 3 or 4 months ago. We've got to be a little bit more caring in the way we actually look at our projects, because no way can we actually say that project should have finished on that time, because we've had so many unusuals through the process.
Yeah, it really has been a year of variables, isn't it? I guess, despite all of that, despite the profit warnings and the doom and the gloom and all that goes with it, this last month has been a good one. I'm not going to ask you to explain exactly how, but I am going to ask you to explain what has happened this month.
Well, yes, you're dead right. If you're looking at compared to last month, we're sort of like near enough £600 million more. So we're over £6.2 billion worth of contract awards so far. We've researched here at Builders Conference. I don't know what to say, really. I'm lost for words. I really am lost for words. Totally and absolutely unusual. So yeah, there are some signature projects there, which we can all see at the top. But overall, it's been a very good month for the whole of the construction industry. But what we do need is, this is just to be the start. We need it to be carrying on, as I say, month on month on month. So yes, over 6 billion. Very good.
This is kind of breaking where I was going to end up, but that's one of the things that I think is intriguing me. We normally work on the basis that we get to sort of end of October, beginning of November, and we will start to think about Christmas parties and winding down for the Christmas and New Year period. I think with Christmas currently in jeopardy, does that mean we just carry on regardless? Is that as the wider construction industry just said, well, we've lost 6 months, let's crack on and try and make up for lost time? But I wonder if that explains the 6.2 billion.
I think you're right. I think exactly it. We've just carry on as usual. And I think, as you say, the festive season is not going to be quite cancelled, but it's definitely going to be a little bit not as what we're used to, shall we say, with the festive parties, or whether it be cocktail parties. We haven't even got our event this year, which we normally have somewhere at the Savoy around about the 10th or 11th of December, because those places are just shut, and obviously you're not allowed the people there. So I think we're just carrying on, and people are concerned about their own job roles and their own job prospects. So we're just steaming on through, and that's what seems to have happened, really. I think it's, if you look at the actual figures as well, it's very much based around the private sector that is trying to keep itself busy. The public sector still needs to pull its finger out and get those projects that are said to be going actually going, because that is gonna underpin the construction industry in 21, 22.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no great defender of politicians of any hue or colour, but I think one of the issues at the moment is everything's so, if you're not concentrating on the coronavirus, you're concentrating on Brexit and things like spending on infrastructure and that kind of, or education or whatever it might be. I think it's gone so far off the back burner, it's not even on the burner at all anymore, is it?
No, you're dead right. And the other thing is obviously the amount of tax that we're getting as UK PLC is obviously diminishing. So we've obviously got to find that money from somewhere, and there aren't any magic money trees that are growing along the streets.
Trust me, I've looked.
It's got to be found from somewhere, and so it's got to be borrowed, and that's really, and that kind of goes against many politicians' core values, isn't it? Is borrowing more.
So, given all the doom and gloom, let's get on to some good news. As you said, 6.2 billion. Who was top of the pile this past month?
Well, it's a joint venture. This is a new element. It's between Sigma Capital and EQT Real Estates. They've put together various sites across London and the UK, and what they want to do is build 3,000 homes. The JV has already bought 5 sites from Countryside Properties, and they're going to be starting those sites. What we do need is that they're off the planning sheets. They're actually got their planning, but we actually want to see the digger in the ground. So yeah, they haven't got a start date on these, but overall it's £1 billion, which is huge. We've been trying desperately to find out whether these projects are going to be built by the JV, or are they going to be then subsequently put out to bid as well, not bid, but actually to do the work themselves. But I'm just looking down here. They got locations in Ealing, Enfield, Havering, Fresh Wharf, Barking, Beam Park, Havering. So it's quite significant, this actual project, and as I say, 3,000 new homes is obviously what we need as a country as well. Second on the list is a project management company called Ballymore Properties. Now, this has already been registered with the Considerate Constructors Scheme, so it's going ahead. This one here is phase 1 on the Isle of Dogs, and it's about 1,500 homes. This one. Together with education space and commercial space. East 14, that one is. Third on the list is Graham Construction. Third on BC Live table is Graham Construction. That's over £340 million worth of work they picked up. Now, the largest one of theirs is in Scotland. So Scotland is coming back a little bit, even though they've got a different tier system to us. But yeah, this project here is for 230 million, and it's called the Baird Family Hospital and the Anchor Centre, and it's Forest Hill Campus, Aberdeen. It's a 230 million project, so that is a hospital job that the Scottish people are going to
I have to say, you can't judge a book by the cover, and you certainly can't judge a construction company by their PR activity. But just recently, Graham Construction seemed to have been very, very active. I see them doing a lot, which that's particularly given that Scottish bias. That's a reassuring thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. They're very good at telling the world what they're doing, and it has always been an issue with the construction industry. I think sometimes we talk to ourselves, but we don't actually talk in a greater volume. So Graham are very, very good, and they are starting to put out what they're doing. The actual project here is also it's obviously very much designed towards cancer screening and radiology services. So a welcome boost to the health sector in Scotland. Fourth on the BC Live table this month with a single project worth £250 million. It's one of those ones that often are used in jokes or whatever, but it's a maintenance project for the Severn Bridge. So it's a
so we've got a start date, but no end date.
That's exactly it. It's just going to carry on and on and on. But that is a public sector infrastructure project. But yeah, that's a £250 million project. Initially, it looks like it's a 15-year contract. And I've got down here sort of like it's what is it? It's just the maintenance of the actual bridge itself, together with works involve cycle maintenance, routes, daily structure inspection checks, etc. But it's for the AMI group itself as well. So that's a significant project down there. I've already said that there are a huge amount of housing projects this month, and when I come to that, it represents over half of this month's total. It's actually around about £3.6 billion worth, which does make me very nervous. I think a little bit more of an explanation needs to be looked into this. It's the fact that, is it a case of these privately funded or companies are putting out the fact that they are winning jobs, or they are going to be doing jobs? They're putting up their sales centres, but are they actually going to proceed at a pace at this present moment in time? That's going to be the big question going forward from here. So
I think that raises another question as well. I mean, you and I have been charting this for a number of years, and certainly over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, housing has led the way. It's dragged the industry along, kicking and screaming. And yet, despite all of that, we are talking some very big numbers. 3,000 homes at the top of the tree this month, and yet we are still lagging behind government targets for new housing. I don't know how much more the housing sector can do, and I realise we have concerns about planning and all that kind of thing. But the industry has already, as you say, dedicated half its resources and half its time to housing already, and we still have a shortfall. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, they're already saying now that I think a couple of years ago we were talking about 250,000 units per year that the UK actually required. Because we haven't hit those targets, I think we're up to now something like 300,000. And then you've got the planning rule changes, which I think concluded for the public to actually discuss it themselves or enter or write off regarding the new changes in that. That finished yesterday. Where do we go? I don't know. Being honest, I think we've got to look at definitely brownfield sites. We've got to look at modular housing, prefabricated modular housing. But also at the same time, we don't want to be just concreting over green fields. We really must have a look at ourselves and say to ourselves, okay, the density has got to increase. But once you do density, then you've obviously got to bring into it local infrastructure regarding roads, railways, buses, tubes, and whatever, So it's somebody's got a big task on their hands to actually sort of like work this all out, really.
Yeah, I mean, on that basis, I mean, I like you, am concerned about the imbalance, but the point you just made there, I think, is very valuable, because if there is housing, if there is a real concentration on housing, sooner or later, all those other bits of the construction business are going to have to catch up. We're going to need schools, we're going to need hospitals and roads and rail and all the things that goes with it. So, as I say, while I'm concerned about the imbalance, much as you are, maybe that is the way that the industry drags itself along. We've got the houses, now we've got to service them.
I think actually, yes, it's chicken or egg, isn't it? Really, it really is. And I think that if we can push forward with that, it's as long as we've got the monetary capability to pay for these projects by way of sort of like the housing sector, because it will be linked back to obviously jobs and the availability of mortgages for everybody, unless because if we look at the BC Live list, actually, BC Live table, in 5th place is L&Q. Well, London and Quadrant are actually obviously a huge housing association within the London area and its home counties, but they've also got their own construction arm as well, and they are 5th on the list, and they're doing something like an extra, 6 projects as well. So maybe shared ownership has got to become more of the British way of life, because we kind of are entrenched in the fact that we like to own our own houses, but we're quite unusual if you look at it across the world. Maybe we have got to do shared ownership or part ownership, and as a way forward from now.
Now, you've mentioned that house building has once again been the jewel in the crown. Let me take a wild stab and say London, in terms of geography, London has done the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah. This month's London is something like, with obviously that project from Sigma at the top, it's something like 2.2 billion is London, which represents 38% of the actual value this month is in London. Scotland is second this month, whereas last month, Scotland has shot to second place this month with over 624 million pounds worth of work.
I've not got the figures in front of me, but I'm fairly sure Scotland was down in the sort of 150 million last month. It's a massive rise.
Yes, exactly. I think what's happened is it had come to an absolute complete near enough standstill, and somebody's obviously gone, this can't happen, we've got to press the button. And obviously with that large hospital job in Aberdeen coming ahead, but yeah, that's 624 million pounds. So great, it's equaling it out across the UK. Other areas of significance, you've obviously got the Southwest with that 250 million pounds worth of work on the Severn Bridge. You've got the West Midlands, which is over £500 million. And one other really is really Kent and Surrey. They're also near it. If you add those two together, that's nearly £500 million worth of work. So, yeah, London and the Southeast is still the epicenter of construction, but there are other hotspots that are going. The Northwest this month, with their introduction into obviously tier 3, hasn't fared so well this month. It's something like 350 million pounds worth of work, but that's okay. What we don't want is obviously this tier 3 to have such a significant impact on the construction industry. We go backwards from here, because what I will say is the number of tenders that are coming out are, I would say, about 30% lower than what we would expect this time of year, because it's a strange, what happens normally now is a lot of tenders are brought out in October and November. So because it's before Christmas, you've got this, but because we now may not have Christmas as we normally think about it, the number has decreased. And we are hearing anecdotally from a lot of our members that, the number of tenders coming through, and especially going back to the public sector, has diminished quite considerably. There's a lot planned. There's a lot of saying, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to do this in the pipeline, but there's no actual factual tenders sitting on someone's desk.
No, absolutely. Now, one of the other questions that I tend to ask at this point is the number of companies that have picked up more than 100 million in the month, because that's always a bit of an indicator of just what the wider sentiment is.
Yeah, we're just we normally think about 10, don't we? As being the average. We're at the present moment in time, as we look at it, it's 14 companies. So it's not bad. With Kia Group also picking up the largest number so far as of today. Obviously, we've got a few hours left where the researchers are still out there. There's 22 projects they've picked up, and they've picked up overall something like 150 million. Last year, in 2019, they picked up just over one project per working day. I think it was something like 23, 24, something like that, projects per month. So the 22 is, and there's 22 days this month as well, if you notice. So they're about bang on, really. So it's been a pretty standard month for them. And overall, there's been what is it? Something like 294 so far companies have secured work on the table, and that is our averages out of 467 projects. So that's exactly the same as last month. Actually, last month was 453 projects, but there are more companies. Last month there was only 250 companies picking up work. This month there's 294 so far. So there is an improvement there as well.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to interrupt you for too long, but we've just had a message in to say that we are being watched from Nepal. I'm going to take a stab at your name, sir, Nabaraj. I don't know what you're getting from this because it's a very British conversation. But thanks ever so much for joining us. Just going to show, Neil, you are world famous. Well, you're famous here and in Nepal, apparently.
I'm glad of it. Yeah, no, it's that's very unusual.
Absolutely. I guess the final question now is, you've mentioned the fact that obviously the Northwest has got into tier 3. We've got Nottingham going the same way and various other bits of the country. I'm still not entirely convinced of why London hasn't gone into tier 3 because, densely populated, you'd have to think that would be an issue as well. What do you think? I mean, I think the industry, I had reservations about how they responded last time. There's this insistence on soldiering on, despite the fact that we didn't really know what the coronavirus was all about the first time around. We do this time. My guess is that the industry will just crack on regardless. We've got social distancing. We understand that the need for masks. We've possibly changed a lot of our working practices. Chances are we're just going to soldier on through this, aren't we?
I think we are. I think, as we said before, the industry is very good at compliance because we deal with health and safety, and we work in a very dangerous, or we work in a dangerous world on sites, and there are many different things that can affect how we work. Yes, I think the industry will. I think if I was to put my own opinion on it, I think what will happen is the projects will slow down because you will have to do things in a slightly different manner. But I do think that we need to, we do need to carry on as long as we've got the right procedures in place. And I was speaking to a good friend of mine last week, and he said the procedures that on his project are over and above what he would have thought, because it's a housing project, over and above what he thought were necessary. He'd only just recently joined them, and then he said to himself, "But really, we should be setting that standard. We should be going over and above because we want people to join us. What we don't want is, first of all, people thinking, oh, building sites are dirty, cold, horrible, wet places full of danger, and then you put COVID on top of it. We've got to be." We want those people to join the industry, and therefore we've got to go over and above the rest. But I do think we'll just soldier on.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. Well, I think that probably wraps it up. I'm not entirely sure whether our man in Nepal is still with us, but if you are, thank you very much for watching. Neil, I'm going to get back to the day job. I'm sure you're going to do the same. It doesn't look like you and I are going to be meeting in person anytime soon. So should we just say same time, same place next month?
Same time, same place next month.
And let's hope for some.
I might even put a suit on next time, as I say, because I don't wear one anymore. So,
well, the funny thing is, you mentioned this when we were off air, and the fact that you're putting on a suit. I might do the same. I might actually put a note in the diary. I'm not sure whether they fit me, because in the past 6 months I've ballooned up in weight, and then I've lost a load. So I don't know quite where I sit. So if I'm in a suit next week or next month rather, the weight's doing okay. If not, then maybe not so much.
Okay, I'll look forward to it.
Okay, fantastic. Neil, have a good weekend. Enjoy your Halloween. Don't do anything too silly. No. Stay safe, and I shall see you again very, very soon.
Okay, see you soon.
Well, that just about wraps that up. I think that's probably the first time I've ever broadcast to somebody in Nepal. As I say, I'm not entirely sure quite what value that person was getting out of it, but I do appreciate their presence. That probably wraps up the show for this month. Suffice to say, we've been doing quite a bit of live streaming over on our sister channel on Diggers and Dozers. There's some very good stuff over there, and we've got a new show coming up. All things being equal, we've got a new show coming up on Wednesday next week, which will be worth tuning into. I'm going to let you all get back to your day jobs now. In the meantime, stay safe, look after yourselves, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I will see you again very, very soon.